So protein seems to be the main topic of discussion right now, and the question is, how much do we need to maximize growth? Well, if you've been in the gym for a while, you probably have heard the general recommendation of 1 gram per pound of body weight thrown around quite a bit for quite a long time. But the actual general recommendation is roughly 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight or slightly more. And this is why most people just say aim for 1 gram per pound of body weight, because it's much easier to tell the general audience to do that than to calculate 0.73 grams per pound of body weight in protein. With that being said, it is worth noting that the evidence for more than 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is not exactly strong. And just to demonstrate this, I'm going to pull up some of the data from the supplementary material, and you can see how conflicting this evidence really is. So truthfully, there is a low level of evidence to suggest that more than 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is going to yield any real additional benefit. And even if you are an enhanced individual, I highly doubt that that would really impact much of anything. So for that reason, I definitely think doing more than 1 gram per pound of body weight is a bit overkill. And personally, I would stick closer to 0.8 to 1 gram in general.
Less is more. So leave exercise talk. So it's just the idea here that I want to point out that there's a lot of information out there, about 1 gram, half a gram of protein per body weight, or lean body mass, or whatever people like to say out there. When in reality, you don't need that much. The reason why, right, the ultimate reason why, is because your body decides how much protein it's going to use to build muscles. You don't know how much protein your body actually needs to build muscles, right? We're trying to figure out, we're science is trying to figure out, they're trying to know, but they don't 100% know. And, a lot of us understand it. Most of our bodies are different. So the way our 300-pound person's body uses protein is probably going to be different than somebody who's 200 pounds, right? So that's why it's going to be hard to narrow it down to how the body uses protein exactly. What we do know, at least from my personal experience, I do know the body will use proteins to repair muscle if it needs to, like really damaged muscle. So if you get injured, you get in a car accident or something, your body's definitely going to prioritize a lot of protein for healing you. But if you barely do anything, if you eat, for example, if you eat protein but you don't lift weights, your body's not going to use it to build muscle. Common sense. There's people who think it does, but it really doesn't. The most it would do is, if your legs, because every day is leg day, so if you're walking, if you're the type of person who walks a lot and use your legs a lot, let's say you do a lot of cardio, you'd be hiking, you'd be swimming, right? If you use your legs a lot, yes, most of the protein you eat will be used for the wear and tear of your muscle fibers in your legs, but it won't really be used for your upper body, because you barely use your upper body for any heavy thing unless you're lifting weights, right? So if you have a job where you lift heavy weights with your upper body, then yes, most of the protein you consume will be used for that as well as your legs. But on average, mostly your legs are, for everybody, your legs is where the protein count is going to be used for. So yes, you can eat proteins, not work out, but still move around, right? And you will use some of the protein, but not a lot. That's the thing, you don't need a lot of protein for just walking. So, but when you start doing heavy lifting, then yes, you're going to need more protein, right? What I meant to say, your body will use more protein. Not that you need to consume more, is that your body will use more of the protein you already consuming, right? So then we get into the scenario of people want to get bigger, put on more muscles. Well, the more damage you cause to your body, yes, the more protein your body's going to use, which would lead to, you might need to consume more for that. So this is why I always recommend 50 grams of protein minimum, just if you don't even work out. But if you do work out, 50 grams is enough. If you work out, that's if you work out a little bit like I do. If you work out a lot, then yes, I would recommend 100 gram minimum a day of protein, because you're damaging your body more than I am, right? So you would, want to make sure you have more than enough for your body to use. But again, your body's the one that decides how much protein your body uses. You don't. So this idea of oh yeah, I'm gonna eat this much protein, this, that, and third, thinking that you have control of how your body uses the protein to build muscles, that's ignorance. That's not science-based. There's no scientific proof that we can determine how much protein our body is going to use when we decide how much we're going to eat. No. Because one, there was a time before all this science stuff, all this protein science. Let me just be specific. Protein science, studying the concept of protein before we even knew what protein was, right? Humans were getting big and jacked just without that. Why? It's because their bodies evolved. We evolved to adapt to know how to biologically use whatever amount of protein we consume and use it efficiently. Your body's already good at using protein however way it deems necessary. It's the same thing with fat loss. Right? Now, yes, we can spot reduce fat, and I already posted my results of me spot reducing my waist, and I'm still working on that to get really good results. So I got a couple more months, and we'll see, my results then. But anyway, the thing is, our bodies ultimately determine what we can and can't do, right? What will and will not happen. But that's why it's important to, have an idea of how much protein we should eat minimum, not necessarily maximum. That's the whole 1 gram per body fat. That's more of a maximum, not a minimum. But a lot of people treat it like it's a minimum when it's not. It's more of a maximum. It's more of an optimal amount of protein. But you know, because they did experiments, right? They did the science. So cool. They saw results with that. Cool. But I personally have seen results with less. And I've been seeing people in the comments talking about they see results with this less. Even this person who just commented to me was pointing out that less than 1 gram, almost half a gram of pound per pound of body weight worth of protein, right? So if they're 300 pounds and this is 0.7, let's say it's 0.5, so half. Instead of consuming 300 a day, this person is consuming 150 a day, technically, or 160 or 170, but you get the idea. They're consuming nearly half of what they normally would if they went by 1 gram per pound. So it's good to do. And they're still like great. Because logically, that's the point. The more protein you consume, the more likely your body's going to use a lot of it for other functions. But a lot of times, it's just going to waste. And nobody really likes wasting anything. Like, we don't like wasting money, so why would we waste protein, right? So if we're guaranteed that at most, in one day, our body will use at most, 100 grams or even 150 grams a day, there's no point in consuming above that because the rest will be pointless. If in one day your body uses 150 grams of protein, there's no point in eating more than that. So at least, eat more than 50, right? Eat more than 100. If you're lifting. If you're not lifting weights, you don't need more than 100. 50 is enough. But if you are lifting weights, obviously eat more, right? Just so that way you can at least guarantee that there's more than enough for your body to use, and then there's still some left over just in case. Again, your body determines how much protein you actually use, not you. So that's why the fact that a lot of people want to argue and debate about how much protein you need and this, that, and the third, and it's like, you need the minimum. That's the point of the concept of a minimum, is that that's the minimum you need. Anything less than the minimum will be negligible, will be like almost like you didn't consume protein because it's so little, right? Just like if you want to buy something, having less money than you need to buy that thing, well, you're not going to get that thing because you need to pay the exact amount. So having the exact amount of protein or a little bit more is better, right? Better to have more protein in your system than you actually need than to have less than what you actually need. That's the point I'm trying to make. That I want you to at least consider, all right, I don't need to eat so much protein a day, but I do need to eat, a good amount. So at least like 20 grams of protein per meal, at least. You know what I mean? You don't have to go crazy and try to have a 50 gram of protein, breakfast and lunch and dinner, like, trying to hit 150. Like, no. 20 grams of protein per meal is more than enough. 30 grams more than enough per meal. You know what I mean? So that's the point I'm trying to get at, is like, just try it. And that's another thing I noticed that I see a lot online is this idea that it's like, well, Google says 1 gram per body weight, so I don't even need to even try less protein. See if I can grow with less protein. I tried it with less protein. Part of it was because I couldn't, at the time, in the beginning, right, afford more protein, right? All I had access to, on average, was junk food and whatever amount of protein I got. So if I was getting 20 grams of protein a day, or, then that's what I was working with. But then I tested out 25 grams of protein versus 50 grams of protein and noticed that the 50 grams was a lot better, right? So that's where I come into the whole 50 gram minimum, because for me, and understand I was over 300 pounds, now I'm 300, but I was over that. And me being a big guy, but 50 grams was more than enough, shows that even if you're smaller than me, 50 grams is more than enough protein. So if I can grow and build and get stronger and bigger on 50 grams of protein a day, you definitely can. So do what you want. If you want to eat more protein, go ahead. That's your choice, right? Your body, your choice. So I don't care. I'm just trying to let you know that you don't have to go that far. At least try it, right? Try it for a month, eating less protein, and see what happens. If you're still getting results, you're still growing, now you realize, oh, dang, I don't even need to spend that much. Like, I just stopped buying protein shakes and started going the chocolate milk route, which is less protein, yes, which is 16 grams of protein when I was consuming 30 grams with the protein shake. And yes, the protein shake was 150 calories, while the chocolate milk is like 380 calories. So almost twice, right? Almost 3 times the amount of calories. But not a big deal, because it tastes good and I don't need that much protein. And the calories I take into account, so I just use it as, as long as I'm eating under 2,000 calories a day, I'm good. So it's not a big deal that I'm eating extra calories. But it just proves the point that that you don't need more. And I'm saving money by doing this because the protein shakes cost more. So in order for me to get 5 protein shakes, let's say that's $25. But in order for me to get a gallon of milk and one of those Nesquik chocolate syrups to make chocolate milk, that let's say that's $15 altogether, or even $20. It's still cheaper than the protein shakes, right? And I'm able to make as many cups as I want, and it's more enjoyable because it's more flavorful. Now, granted, I could skip out the chocolate and just drink the milk, and that would reduce the calories because most of the calories is coming from the chocolate milk, from the chocolate syrup. So the syrup adds more calories and flavor, not necessarily more protein. The protein is mainly from the milk. So I could get, I use 2% milk, by the way. I could use, fat-free milk, any milk that has less calories, and then that would, balance itself out. But right now, use what I got. And that's the thing. Saving money, which is always good because then I can use that money for other things like training equipment, more food, more food instead of like more protein or more supplements. I could just get more food, more whatever I want, or just save the money because saving money is always good. But that's one of the things, one of the many benefits of less protein is you spend less money.